Oh, yes, indeed. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Somerville. I am your host, Michael Somerville. What an exciting day this is. I am sitting with Baldy and Renetta of Toby Beau. Do I say rock group? How do I call it?
Rock group.
Rock group.
Rock group is good. I love it.
Not only am I a fan, but I'm a friend. You guys, this is for our listeners. This is exciting. Toby Beau is a rock group that has been in existence for, you tell me, how many years?
Oh, 40?
40 years.
40 years. That was scary to say that.
Because you're only 36.
4 years.
Yes. I think longer, since 74, really.
Yeah.
1974.
Yes.
Baldy here is a fantastic musician that I've had the pleasure of working with and watching perform. And I am not a musician. I obviously am a comedian. Nobody wants me up there playing the triangle. But tell us, Baldy, how did you even get involved in music? Tell us where you're from. What was your first instrument? What was the beginnings?
Oh, Michael, I was always. I think I fell in love with music when I saw the Beatles on TV.
Yeah.
And that was
Ed Sullivan?
Ed Sullivan. Was it 64?
64.
1964. And that was it. I've never seen anything so fantastic. So I remember learning all the Beatles songs. I didn't play anything, but I thought I had a pretty good voice. And I remember one time, my first time on the stage was I think I was in the 5th grade or 4th grade. It's hard to remember nowadays. But we were doing this talent show, and my cousin was the bass player of this 5-piece band. And his amplifier cable had a short in it. So he couldn't play the bass and then hold the cord into the amplifier without shorting it out. So they hired me to play the tambourine and actually hold the cord on the amp.
Your first job was holding the cord?
That was my main job, holding the cord in the amp so the amp wouldn't turn off. And so we're singing this song. I forget what it was. It was an old pop tune from the 60s. And I'm singing it too, while the lead singer in the front is singing it in the mic. So my cousin, the bass player, he stopped it. He goes, "Stop, everybody." He goes, "Wait a minute." He goes, "Hey, my cousin sings this song back here much better than you're singing it up there. Switch."
Are you serious?
So they got the lead singer to go back and hold the chord. He was really mad, and I've been singing in front of an audience ever since.
And that wasn't planned. That was they just heard you back there.
Yeah, because I wasn't really trying to show off, but I really liked the song, so I was just singing along with it, you know. And then my cousin, he was like just a few feet away because he turned around and he goes, "Hey, wait, we're gonna make a switch," because they were.
I love it. The cable guy back here actually can sing.
I became the cable guy.
And what happened to the poor lead singer?
Oh boy, he was upset. He was gone. Oh yeah, well, I never heard from him again. Actually,
did you know you could sing at that point, or was it news to you?
Yeah, no, I knew I could sing along with the radio, but then when they put me up in front with the microphone, boy, that opened up a whole new life. Because Michael, you know for a fact, a million people can tell a joke, but you put a guy that can tell a really good joke at a table, and you put him in the center stage with a microphone in his hand, and the first thing that happens is you choke.
It absolutely frees up. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. But but you came alive.
Oh yeah, I came alive. I loved it. It was like, oh my God, it was like an adrenaline drug rush. I just had to have more. And all of a sudden, before you knew it, I was a big diva. This group wasn't good enough anymore. I had to get a better one.
Now, how old are you at this point?
Oh my God. Well, how old are you when you're in the 4th grade?
9.
9 or 10.
Yeah. Well, you made your first single at 13.
Yeah. I recorded our first record with a band that I was with. Actually, my partner was with the band all the way until the end of Toby Beau. But we were together as kids, and we had a band called AIR, Atomic Ice Cream Revolution.
Atomic Ice Cream Revolution.
This was 68, 69, during the time when tie-dyed shirts.
And what are you doing? Singing? Are you playing anything?
Singing lead. I played nothing. I didn't know how to play an instrument at all. I was just, back then, you know, the Doors, it was Jim Morrison. Led Zeppelin, it was Robert Plant. You got to have a front guy. Yeah. That was me. I was the front guy.
That was you. And what was your attitude? Did you have an angle? Were you dressing a certain way?
Yeah. I always wear, it was bell bottoms back then. And tight shirts. And to make eye contact with all the little girls. I got beat up more by at our dances because I was always eyeing on the girls. I got beat up all the time by the fellas from the other towns.
You were the lead singer and the rock star. You get beat up after your own show?
Yeah, after my own show. I guess you're making eyes at my girl. Boom, pow, wham.
But that didn't slow you down.
No, it made it better. That's rock and roll.
So 13 with your first single. That, I mean, a true single? Like, you put out
45.
a song.
You know what? We were real moving forward so fast that we knew that we could only expand so much. Because I'm from a really small town down in South Texas. The population was 10, 15,000.
Wow.
And the biggest town in the nearby area was only 20 or 30,000 people. So we were getting work, but we weren't getting a lot of work. So we thought, let's cut a 45 single, 2 sides. Well, we need 2 songs. So me and the guitar player wrote both sides, and we went into this little, what we thought was like Capitol Records in Hollywood. It was like this tiny little barn with a 4-track recorder. But he was the only guy in a 100-mile radius that actually made records that could be pressed.
Right.
And so, sure enough, before you know it, I mean, the songs, we're even getting it played on the radio, and we can't really sell any of them because we don't have a distribution network. So we're just giving them away. But we started getting a lot of work.
Okay, local Texas.
Local South Texas work.
Small town, let me just ask, small town in Texas in the 60s, you're the wild card musician. Was it like Footloose? Were you like, did everyone in town know who you were?
Yes, it was just like that. It was so cool because we went from zero. I was from humble beginnings, so that really my parents didn't have a lot of money. But we would play the dance after the football game on Thursday night. And they would pay the band. There was 5 of us. They would pay us $80
total.
$80 total for the whole band.
Wow.
And then we would do another dance in the neighboring town for another $80.
Would you get beat up after both shows?
Yeah. It was always in the neighboring towns that I would get beat up.
Okay, that's especially.
Yeah. So I'm back at school on Monday, a freshman in high school, 13 years old, and I got $40 in my pocket. And that's a lot of money, for lunch. You could get a hamburger for 30 cents. So, not to date myself, but that's how much when McDonald's came out, the hamburgers were 15 cents. So.
Well, that's got a nice reward, though. Not only do you love music.
And I had some money, and then the money was like, wow, I'm getting money to pretend I'm Robert Plant or Jim Morrison of the Doors. Yeah. So I thought, this might be a life. So then I thought, you know what? All of a sudden, when the folk craze came in after rock and roll, right at the 70s movement, rock and roll became more of a, let's see what we can do with the acoustic guitar and become more of a balladeer type of a person. Even in England, everybody's switching over to the acoustic. Even Led Zeppelin went smooth for a while. And so I thought, I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. So I bought a cheap guitar, started strumming it, and before you know it, James Taylor came out, John Denver came out, and I was like, wow, these guys pick up girls better with these songs, than with the rock songs, because they're more like,
Now I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah,
women are important from a very early age. When you had a chance to meet women, seem to be part of the strategy.
Oh my God, part of the allure, absolutely.
No, so you decided to pick up the guitar. Now tell me, I've tried once in my life playing the guitar, and everyone knows I'm a little bit of a softie, but it hurts.
It does.
Those strings they were really coarse, and they're wires. I mean,
they're hard to play, especially just up until the last 20 years did they start making guitars with different neck sizes and different guitar strings, so it doesn't hurt to play. But in the old days, my God, I want to say almost 100 years, there was only one style of acoustic or classical guitar, and it hurt to play those things.
Right?
Yes.
You just have to build up those calluses.
Yeah, and I still have them, mine. They're not as strong as they were in the early years because the guitars were very hard to play. Now the guitars are like butter,
yeah.
You're
like you're telling the younger, you don't understand.
No, it's true. In my day, it sounds terrible, but it's true.
Well, I know you as a fabulous guitarist and someone who owns a lot of guitars. I assume that's true of people who play guitar, right? They have more than one.
We love our guitars.
Yeah.
And we have to have an electric, several kinds, because there's an electric, you have to play a Fender to get that smooth Fender Stevie Ray Vaughan sound or the clean country sound. Then you have a rock and roll, you have to have a Gibson, to get that Eric Clapton Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Kiss sound. And then if you play acoustic, then you got to have a classical to get the Jose Feliciano tone, or you have to have a steel string, to get the Crosby, Stills and Nash tone. And then before you know it, you got 4 or 5 of the same ones, but you just can't part with them. It's like a car collection. I know some friends of mine that are car nuts, and that's a lot more expensive than guitars. But they
become your babies.
Yeah, they become your babies. You can't get rid of them.
And during your show, you do this awesome thing where I've seen you actually will trade out guitars and they'll toss it in. It's like a total rock star move. Like the guitar comes flying in, you catch it, you start jamming.
Billy Squier taught me that move.
Is that true?
Billy Squier taught me that move.
Billy Squier.
Billy Squier.
Oh, man.
He used to be, we were managed in the late 70s, we were managed by Rocksteady Production, which Kiss owned. That was their management company, Kiss. And
I was going to ask you, when did things start to...
Well, after the atomic ice cream revolution fizzled,
melted.
Michael, we changed our name. Basically the same members. We went more like we changed music into more like a pop rock, like with acoustic guitars, like a Loggins and Messina type of style. And we changed our name. The nucleus of Toby Beau was me and my partner, Danny McKenna. And he came from Atomic Ice Cream Revolution, and I did. And we were only the two that kept playing with each other through all of these different years. So by the mid-'70s, we had kind of played ourselves out in Texas. We moved to San Antonio, and we were like the big fish in a little pond.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife, Renetta. I actually met Renetta in South Texas, in McAllen.
And for our listeners, the lovely Renetta, that's who is here sitting with us, also part of Toby Beau.
I'm just hogging all the conversation.
No.
I'm sorry,
we're gonna get to her. We're gonna get to her. She hasn't been born yet for this podcast. She hasn't. She's not.
So once we moved to San Antonio, we kind of exhausted the area. We were doing really, really good, but we wanted more. Like I did when I was 13 with that single.
Yeah.
I always felt like I had to be one step ahead of everything. So we're sending out demos and not doing very good. One night, this was purely by chance. One of the brother of vice president of Rocksteady Productions, like I said, with Kiss, he was in town with a group called Stars that had just played like this big stadium show with Aerosmith, I think it was, and Rick Derringer, all these big 70s people. And Stars was the first act. They came on at 9. So they were done. They asked some of the local girls, which used to be our groupies, where's the hot band? We want to see the hot local band. Said, well, we're going to take you to see Toby Beau at this dingy roadhouse, up on north of town.
Right.
And so they brought the band out. And we did a couple of sets. And I remember this friend, this young man, his name is Leon Delaney. His brother was vice president of that company, and he walked up and he said, you guys are real good. You remind me of my brother's old band. And if you guys got a demo, and back then we had cassette tapes, here's one of our cassettes. So we gave him a cassette, not thinking much of it. And of course he calls back 4 or 5 days later from New York and said, I played my brother your tape and he's real interested in your band. He's going to fly down to San Antonio to check you guys out.
Wow.
So at that point we're like, wow, this is exciting. So sure enough, he shows up. He listens to us play and he goes, you know what? Your songwriting sucks.
Okay. Okay.
You guys are good performers, but your songwriting sucks. So,
and when you say songwriter, I'm an absolute novice. You mean the actual words or the actual songs?
The songs,
good?
He hated them. But he said, listen, but I hear promise. So I'm going to stay here with you guys for a week, and we're going to go and rent a studio, and then we're going to rehearse arranging and songwriting techniques because I've done this. Because he was like, I've already done this with Kiss. I've already done this with Billy Squier. And
he's a big time guy,
yeah.
Huh?
And so we said,
yeah. And what is your sound? What kind of music are you playing?
Well, we were a lot like we were playing stuff like the Allman Brothers, or we were playing a lot like Loggins and Messina, which was and we were playing a lot of Eagle stuff.
Okay.
So it was acoustic guitar with electric guitar with drums and bass, sort of a rocked up country style.
Gotcha.
And so we went in, we rehearsed with him for about a week. We wrote about 2 or 3 songs with him. He went back to New York, and then we didn't hear from him for quite a while. We thought, it's over, so much for that.
Yeah.
Then out of nowhere, he calls and says, look, we got a deal for you with Kiss's record company, Casablanca, but you guys have to come to New York right now. And then we went, that's okay. We'll come up for the weekend. He goes, no, we mean you need to get rid of the leases on your apartment, sell your cars. We need you up here so we can make you part of this big machine that we have that we make rock stars out of. I mean, we thought, what? We thought it was really silly. It was, what are you talking about, a machine?
Now, do you guys have lives back home? Do you have families? Do you
yes,
have
of course we did. I had just met my wife, Renetta.
Okay, so Renetta's in the picture?
Oh.
Okay.
You met me 4 years before that.
5 years. Go clear it up, because I'm making a mess out of this.
Let's bring Renetta in here. We have to go to fact check everything with the woman, which is the way.
Of course.
No, Renetta's is fake news.
Yes, there you go.
So tell us, Renetta, how you came along.
Well,
and then we'll get back to this.
I was in high school, and he was playing at this place, the Shakey's Pizza Parlor.
Shakey's Pizza Parlor.
Actually, my sister went to see him and came home, and I played guitar and sang since I was 9. And so I was a choir girl. I'm real into singing folk music, Joni Mitchell, all that. And she said, I just saw the guy you're going to marry. And I was like, what? So I went out there. It took me a while, but then another girlfriend told me about him and said, you've got to meet this guy. He's perfect for you. So I went and checked him out. And that was it. I was hooked. It took me 3 months to get him to ask me out. But we started dating. The second he asked me out, we started dating and never stopped. And this was like in 74.
Okay.
73. And so we were together, all that. We did move to San Antonio.
And what were you doing at the time? You were working
I was in high school.
Oh, you were in high school?
She had another year of high school. Though.
Okay. And then I went to college, and then we decided to move to San Antonio. And so I was with him, but I was still working a day job while he was a musician.
Gotcha.
And in fact, the week that he got a record deal is when I got pregnant. So,
Is that right?
Yes, the best of times, the worst of times.
So the record deal in New York, come move to New York, by the way, I'm pregnant.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, okay, this is really good. This is really good, but really bad.
Right, but complicated.
Yes. Renetta goes, no, you have to go to New York. I'll stay in San Antonio and I'll take care of everything.
Woman.
And I thought we were going up for a few months, just for a few months, and I'd be able to fly back.
Yeah.
But every time I was ready to fly back, something else would come up. Another showcase, another trade show, another opportunity to try to get big money from the labels. Back in the late 70s, they were giving out lots of money.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. They don't. The record company has changed a lot.
But if they liked you, you get a deal.
You get big bucks,
with a nice advance.
Back then, with a real big advance, you could hire a lot of a road crew. You could hire a big old fancy bus.
Wow.
A trailer to carry all your gear, and it was very important to not leave that town.
Yeah.
And so before you knew it, it was a year. A year that we were up there being groomed to be rock stars. I mean,
wow.
The week we
what does that involve, being groomed to be a rock star?
It's
like it sounds.
Yeah.
It was when we got there, they assigned us to somebody in the office was a stylist. I never knew what a stylist was. I thought that was somebody who did your hair.
I still don't know what a stylist is.
Okay, this was a young girl that all she did was find clothes for you to wear that suits the music and suits your personality.
Okay.
They took a look at us and goes, "What's wrong with your pants?" And they went, come here. And then they got a tailor. He took a what do you call this? Measuring tape. And he goes, "How big are those pants? Your waist is a 27. He goes, "Well, those are 32s." Because it was the style back then to wear, and
I
so
still do that.
That was the end of that. Fitted jeans.
Wow.
Fitted shirts. I'd never had a tailor-made shirt before. I mean, I have a shirt that's that two people are wearing the exact same shirts made by the same costume fitter. One is on Peter Frampton's solo album, and the other one was what's Barry Gibbs? Andy Gibbs. Barry Gibbs' brother's album. And we're all three of us. Mine's on the cover of a magazine, and it's the same exact shirt but in different colors. And so that we were all being groomed and played. And the other part of the grooming was that immediately they put us in this big rehearsal studio called SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals. It had about 6 or 7 studios in one location in New York. And we'd be in the recording in Studio 1. James Taylor would be rehearsing in another studio. Wow. Carly Simon in another one. Simon and Garfunkel and Aerosmith or Kiss. All of it.
You were in with the big...
In with the big guys. And we were in there not only rehearsing the songs, but figure out who's going to stand where and who's going to jump where onto where when the chorus hits here.
Wow.
And when the crowd cheers, where are we going to... I mean, I never heard any of this.
Literally practicing to be rock stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were showing you what movements to
the
make.
big moves with your hands,
Really?
I mean, I was just a little...
Rockstar school.
21, 22, and I was thinking, this is kind of silly. I don't know if we're ready for this. And then now I find that it was an invaluable part of the entire... It was a machine.
Yeah.
They were showing us how to interview. They would have like mock interview classes at the office,
Right. This is hysterical. Today I would think something like that might exist. Back then,
that's when it started. And I remember there was 4 key management companies in New York. Rocksteady, which managed Kiss, Us, Stars, Billy Squier, Billy Idol. Then there was Premier, who handled our biggest rivals were Peter Frampton. Back then it was Blue Oyster Cult, Aerosmith. Some of the heavier rock bands from the New York area, they were managed by them. Then, of course, there was the agency that managed a lot of the London acts,
Okay.
And so, but the 3 managers were very good friends.
Okay.
So whenever there was an outing or anybody wanted to showcase a new album by, say, Aerosmith or Blue Oyster Cult, we were all invited.
Okay.
So we were really hobnobbing with all of these people. Billy Joel, there's so many. My mind is like overwhelmed right now. Some of the things that we saw.
And
Meatloaf.
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 I mean, to be associated with it now, and then what do you do? Do you graduate? From this school? What's the next step? You open up for a big name?
Our graduation was to start playing all these raunchy roadhouse gigs by ourselves, or opening up with not has-beens, but people that weren't selling records at the time, but were selling records 10 years ago, 10 years before, back in the 70s.
Gotcha.
So we were opening for people like the Byrds. We were opening for people like the Lovin' Spoonfuls, bands like that, Steppenwolf, people all up and down the East Coast, just getting our chops, learning how to play to an audience that sometimes was 50 or 60 people, but that's all they could fit in that room. And I remember we used to open for Tom Petty. Tom Petty had just gotten a deal.
You opened for Tom Petty.
He had just gotten a deal, and he was a big deal. So we would open for him in these roadhouses, and he would bring in a really good crowd because his music was really hot, even back then in his first couple of records. So once we got our chops down, then big graduation ceremony. The record came out, and they put us on tour with Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band in stadiums. And we went from a little club of 100 people to a stadium, and so this required a rehearsing in a big auditorium.
Yeah,
and but
is that the biggest thing you'd done up to that point?
That was the biggest thing, and we went straight into the cold water. I mean, we thought we would build up to it a little bit, but no. And the song had just hit the top 100 on Billboard magazine.
The song being
My Angel Baby. And so every time we would hit one of these big stadiums with Bob Seger, he sold out completely everywhere he worked, everywhere he played. So as the opening act, we'd be playing to, 10, 15, 20,000 people. So everybody would get to hear My Angel Baby. So the next day, they would request it on the radio. So the song started climbing higher and higher. Wow. Every time we played a big show with Seger, it would go from 88 to 78, from 78 to 68, from 68 to 58. And with that big Seger tour, we took that song almost all the way to number 1. It was number 1 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary chart.
Wow. Wow.
All from
now, where were you the first time? And that's got to be so exciting to have a song that literally...
I think the first show was Nassau Coliseum.
But the first time you heard it on the radio.
The first time you heard it on the radio.
The first time you heard it.
That was a New York station, right?
It was in New York at WBLS, which is a rhythm and blues black station. The first time we heard it, and the band was country rock. We even did a couple of songs on the album that had banjos in them, because we were still trying to sound like the Eagles.
Okay.
Now, My Angel Baby did not sound like the Eagles. It sounded like a rhythm and blues song. Okay. So this R&B station picked it up. They thought it was an R&B song, and the guy, I remember when I listened to it, the guy that was my man Toby singing My Angel Baby. And so we thought, what the hell? They're the first ones to play it. Immediately, the other AM stations back then, we had AM did all the music. Now they just do talk radio, but back then AM did most of the music, pop music, most of the rock music. And FM, if you were really hip, you had really good albums, and they play you in the FM market. But
And then your full picture came out in Billboard.
Oh yes, yeah. And then the picture of the album came out on Billboard like that week that it was being played on BLS. And one of the band members was wearing a cowboy hat because we were trying to look like like one of these cowboy Eagles, like the Eagles. And they didn't play. They stopped playing the song. They just didn't stop playing it at all at BLS. They wouldn't play it anymore because they were like, these guys are crackers, They're not gonna play that music. And but by that time, the other New York stations had already started playing the tune. So the avalanche had started.
Okay.
Thank God too, because we really and I remember always saying that I thank those people at that station for having the insight to pick up on what they thought would be a pop hit song, which it turned out to be. Yeah. They were the first, not the other AM stations like WOAI or the big ones in New York.
Sure.
They picked it first. So WBLS, thank you so much.
Are they still?
I don't know.
Now cut to back home.
Yeah.
What's happening with you? We've had a child.
Well, yes. At this point, we have our son.
Okay. And are you guys married or not?
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you've been married. You had a kid. You're still back in Texas.
So back in Texas,
and he's up learning how to put his hands in the air.
And I kept a day job forever until not forever, but for a long time.
Well, we had to, Bernetta, because we weren't making a lot of money, but we were getting all the perks.
Okay.
But I remember they were paying us $75 a week just to have cash in our pocket. But I couldn't send any of that home because there was nothing to send home.
So I kept a job. And I held it together. And then Baldy, I think during the second album is when the band split up, and and that's when he became a solo artist, and he finished the album. You want to tell me about that? You finished the album.
Yeah, when Renetta first joined the band, we had just finished our first album. We were riding high on My Angel Baby, the hit. When we went to do the second album, we all kind of acted like a bunch of divas. Like, well, now we're songwriters, and we just had a hit song. And then our management company said, you know what, we need you to do some songs from this catalog of these LA songwriters that have proven to have hit songs.
Okay.
And we were like, no, we do our own songs. Yeah, classic,
stuff,
we do our own stuff. And as it turned out, the management company was right. A lot of the songs that we turned down turned out to be big hits for somebody else.
So these are just people who write songs but don't perform them. And
So our album started looking bad from the start, the second album.
Okay.
And morale was low. And so my partner, he decides to quit. He says, if you don't like our songs, then I quit. And so he was the brilliant guitar player on the album. He actually played just about everything.
Okay.
And without him, it was really big hole.
Okay.
So what happened
you guys essentially worked together as a team. Reminds me a little of it's like Don Henley and Glenn Frey, right?
Yeah.
Weren't they kind of the engine
just
of
like
the
that.
Eagles? Yeah.
And without one or the other, it was real hard.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been the Eagles.
Right.
So
it's the Smugglers'
label,
Blues.
the label jumped in right away and said, you guys, first they said, if you're going to quit, then we're going to have to dump the band and we're going to have to sue you guys for breach of contract. So we've just given you $300,000 for 3 albums. And then this was in 1977. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
A lot of money today.
Yeah, it's a lot of money now. But because we owed them 2 more records.
Oh, wow.
And
you put out one, you're working on the second, your partner quits.
Yeah.
Now what?
So the label says, look, Toby Beau sounds like a person. Baldy co-wrote the song. He sang lead on the song. Unless you saw them on tour with Bob Seger, the Doobies, or all these countless others within the 2-year period, no one really knows what this guy looks like,
Yeah.
So we'll make you a deal. And they made the deal to me. They didn't make it to the band. I felt terrible because of this. They said, look, you get rid of the band. You finish the album with the session musicians in New York or LA. It's your choice. We released the album, the second album, as Toby Beau with the remaining members, but you finish the record by yourself. And on the third album, you get rid of the band altogether, and we'll just make you Toby Beau, and you do the third album totally by yourself in the studio with studio musicians.
Really?
Yeah. And
so they liked you enough that they wanted to. Okay. Well, that's a compliment.
It was very flattering. It was just also, but I was only 23 years old, and these people that I was
23 at this point.
These people that I was playing with, I played for them all my life. With them, they're like my brothers, and I had to go to them and tell them, they don't want you they just want me.
Yeah.
And so that stung for
That is
many
tough,
years.
yeah.
They
Got to
they
get
held
beat up again
grudges.
after a
Yeah,
show.
there I am getting beat up again, Michael. But that's how it came to be that I became the solo Toby Beau.
So you became, yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, I put a new band together. Renetta was on keyboards and vocals, and we went on. We started playing all over Texas. We had a big band back then. I think we had saxophone, 2 guitar players, because I wasn't really big guitar player yet. Mostly I played acoustic, and had these wonderful players, but they were always quitting, especially the guitar player.
Okay.
Finally, I remember one time we were in Houston, and he didn't even show up, so I had to pretend to play lead guitar. And I remember that night, Renee and I talked, said, you know what, it didn't sound that hard. So from now on, I'm going to take a couple of months off, and then I'm going to learn how to play the lead solos on these songs that we're doing in the show, and then from then on, I'm not hiring any more guitar players. I'm going to take over. And from that pressure of having to have the solos on the songs actually taught myself to play the guitar.
That's, yeah.
And I've been working on it ever since. And now I don't hire a guitar player.
You eliminate the number of people, which always fascinates me about this business, because it's hard enough to make it. It's hard enough to be creative. It's hard enough to get any semblance of attention, and then you have to deal with all these personalities, and in many cases, not the most mature, behaving people.
You're talking about musicians, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Renee and I were nursemaids.
We did the same thing with our keyboard player. He got rid of him, and he said, "You're learning to play keyboards." And I went, "Excuse me."
Oh yeah. That's what I did.
Because Renetta does now play the keyboards.
Yeah.
Yes.
We lost so many keyboard players.
That right?
Yes.
I finally said, Renetta, you're going to play piano. She goes, I don't know how to play piano. I said, well, I know how to play a little bit. I'll teach you.
Yeah.
I'll teach you what I can to get through the song. And before you know
got
it,
your new baby on the drums.
Yeah. I started out like the Spinal Tap singer with a tambourine.
In the back.
That was my big instrument, the tambourine, and I haven't played tambourine in
That is
35 years.
But you're right, though. The more you can minimize the number of people you need to depend on, the better off you are.
And she became a really good piano player and a real good keyboard player. Now she's an essential part of it.
And the thing about we've always been parent. We started out being parents so young that it was never a question whether or not we had to go forward. We had to. This was our life.
Yeah.
And it was something we chose. Baldy's never done anything in his whole life. But
I've never had a day job.
Never.
You
He's
started
never
when you were
had.
9.
And on the other hand, I've had many jobs. A lot of times to hold a sofa. A lot of times I have a job so I can pay the musicians that we had to hire, because we were, back then we had to hire the good musicians, and a lot of times you don't get paid as much as you need to pay.
The closest I ever got to a day job was when Renee and I first moved. We're just kids. We moved to San Antonio together, and I had to get a job. So back then in the old days, we had employment unions. In Texas, we had the Texas Employment Commission, and I remember going to the office and signing up to be a plumber's helper.
Oh my!
A plumber's helper with a legitimate salary. I think it was like $6 an hour, and I didn't get it because I didn't have any experience as a painter's helper.
Oh, I was a painter, not plumber.
A painter.
A painter's helper.
Yeah.
Okay.
A painter's helper. I mean, how much experience do you have to have?
I think you were more disappointed not becoming a painter's helper than if you had not gotten a record deal.
It was real disappointing because I was like, man, I was counting on being a painter's helper.
Just hand me a brush. You don't know how to hand someone a brush.
Not any experience. I remember the girl telling me, you just don't have the experience. And I looked at her like, a painter's helper.
Well, I tell you what, a lifetime in rock and roll, and My Angel Baby, I think a song that, anyone in the world would want that one song, I think, that you say, boy, what a marquee thing. But my favorite story about the song is when I was first getting to know you guys, we have a mutual friend who said to me, have they shown you their porno?
That sounds weird the way you just said it.
That is exactly what they said to me. Did they show you their porn? And I said, excuse me? I said, well, you're friends with Baldy and Renetta. Have you seen the porn? And I said, no, I don't think I want to. Please, for our listeners, tell them what I'm talking about.
Renetta and I, we always have this Christmas party. We have a Christmas party every year. It's real big. And back in the mid '80s, early '90s, in the big hotels, they had a TV channel called Spectravision, and they would show these light porn movies and late at night. And
you
so,
saying light porn?
well, it was like light porn because remember you couldn't really see what their faces were doing. It was just made for the big hotels.
Right.
It was
right.
like pay TV.
I've heard of this. I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about
I don't know
that.
anything.
So
I've never heard it called light before, though.
so Toby Beau's playing in Galveston, Texas. I remember one night, and my cousin, who's a brilliant guitar player, his name is Javier Silva. He's playing with this big country band in San Antonio, Texas. So we always took breaks at the same time. So he knew what time my breaks were on. He knew what time his breaks were on. So we'd call each other. He'd call me because he goes, "Do you have Spectrovision on your hotel room?" I said, "Yeah." Put it on channel 83 and then call me at 2 a.m. when the club shuts down and we'll talk. I said, "What?" He goes, "Just do it. I said, "Okay." So there I am putting my, what is it, just giant VCRs we used to have?
With a Betamax.
We have a big Betamax.
Giant Betamax you carried around. Oh my! That's what you bought with your first royalty check. That Betamax.
So anyway, we recorded on cassette tape, big video cassette tape, and we come back. And then I finished. We're having a little party after the gig, and I got people over. So we put the tape in, and all of a sudden there's these bunch of girls. It's a porno, and
doing what porno people do,
and they're going, "Let's play a game called Angel Strip Trivia." So we name a song, and if you don't get it right, you take a piece of clothing off. So needless to say, long story short, here comes My Angel Baby.
My Angel Baby.
Number 5, My Angel Baby by Toby Beau. And it just to hear my name mentioned in a porno.
And Baldy goes, "I made it to the top."
Yes, and this is really making it.
It doesn't get any bigger than that. You are part of the fabric of society.
That's it.
So we play that so many Christmas parties, and when we first met Michael, but with that it just slipped out funny. Have you seen their porno?
Have you seen their porno?
Yeah, people always say, "Were you really in a porn?" But no. Oh my God.
Well, I tell you,
I'm glad we cleared it up for the podcast.
40 years later, you guys you sound better than ever. You guys
Thank
are
you,
still
Michael.
rocking, and it's an absolute pleasure to thank you for taking the time to share how you got here, because I've always admired anyone in this business. I mean, it's never an easy road, and there's a lot of ups and downs, but you guys have made it look good. And, and I'm assuming you don't have the bell bottoms anymore.
No.
No.
And I keep wondering, it's funny because they never came back.
No, they didn't.
Not
They
for
never
guys,
came
not
back.
for guys, but for girls.
For girls,
a
they
little
did
bit,
a
maybe.
little bit, but not for guys because they do look silly. It's a silly wardrobe to have that thing belling on your bottom of your.
We were so hip hugger too.
Oh, yeah,
and we
yeah.
were a belt about 3 inches wide around. I mean,
It looked like Santa Claus's belt. Remember?
Yes.
Well, we were really dating ourselves on this
Oh
one.
my gosh.
Well, you guys are the best. Thanks for sitting down with us, and thank you all for listening out there. You please rate, review us on iTunes, subscribe, give us 5 stars because we deserve it, and you can check us out every week on Greetings from Somerville. Thanks so much, everyone.